So welcome to Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and this evening I'm delighted to be joined by the Burns family, or three of Tommy's kids, as well as David Carswell and Mark as well. We've spoken before. We've got Jenna and Emma and Michael. So welcome all to the studio. It's great to see you all. And we're going to be talking memories about the late great Tommy Burns. I'm going to start right because my very first game was Tommy's testimonial against Liverpool. It was the first time I ever went to Celtic Park, 1987. It would have been May, actually, 1987. My very first game, which means that I've watched Celtic in 5 decades, which shows you how old I am. And then my first season ticket was Tommy Burns' first season as manager.
Really?
So I've got milestones as a Celtic fan, and it's Tommy Burns. He keeps coming back. And the first time I seen us winning a trophy, because I missed the Dundee United game, which will be pivotal, I'm sure, in the play, was the Airdrie game in 1995. That was the first time I physically seen Celtic lifting a trophy. So yes, fond memories. Davey, you and I have spoken before about your work in theatre, and I think that when you look at the history, the illustrious history of Celtic Football Club, as incredible as it is, there are only certain figures that you could possibly put on that stage.
100%.
Talk to me about Tommy and how you were able to come up with this concept.
As you know, I'd written the play about Benny Lynch and the format worked, and being a massive Celtic fan and a massive Tommy fan, I wondered about how we could do it, and same with the guys before, I'd always wanted to write a play about Tommy. I didn't know if it was going to be a one-man show, you know, where he just went up and it was the same, but then I thought, no, how can we do this, how can we break it down, and actually with technology moving forward as well, because we're going to do the show on a kind of multimedia level, it means we can do different things. So essentially I wanted to celebrate his life, and not just the football element. This is not a football play, this is a play about an amazing man who happened to play football. So we have his life from his young age to when he got married to Rosemary, not just his Celtic stuff, you know, everything. It's a play about the man, and that's why we've split the stage into 3 areas. It's his family, his faith and his football, and the vast majority of the play actually takes place in the living room, the family home, where we can all sort of empathise with, you know.
I've got my memories as a as a fan, and you watch Tom as a player and then as a manager, and then I've had the privilege of speaking to a lot of guys who knew him in the game. And just recently, this was very interesting, I spoke to Pat Nevin, who was speaking about Tommy. Now listen to this story, right? So Pat Nevin was brought up a Celtic fan, mad Celtic fan, and he was talking about he tried to master tricks. So if he seen somebody doing a trick, he would master it, and it didn't matter how long it took, right? He said, and he managed to master them all. Any tricks that he saw in the football park except 2. He says, and one of them was Diego Maradona, where he did this thing where the ball came to him and he was able to touch it and it went round his kind of neck and all this kind of stuff. He says another one was Tommy Burns. He said, and the trick was that Tommy would run up to somebody, do this wee shimmy, and the person would fall over. He says, and I could never master it. And when he said it, I'm thinking, I've seen that move. I've seen it so many times. He said, but I could never master it. So everybody's got a story, a fond story about Tommy Burns. What's it like to hear these things? Because I've also heard people like Neely Mockin, who I know pretty well, saying that sometimes people are telling a story about his dad and he's thinking that must be a different guy, because there's the home version, then there's the guy that they know at the work, if you like.
I love it when people tell me stories, especially ones that I've not heard, and there always will be something, do you know what I mean? And like that, we've got a million stories to tell, and you can sit and talk about them all day, do you know what I mean? Like, and never get bored of it, sort of thing. And even like that, doing stuff like this and speaking to guys like yourselves, like we're hearing things that we never knew before, do you know what I mean? So it's really nice, and like that with the show and stuff like that takes it on a whole other level as well, do you know what I mean? Which is amazing.
Definitely. I mean, what's it like when, I know there's been documentaries, for example, on BBC Alba and Celtic, what's it like seeing the process of somebody trying to recreate your father's story? What's that like?
Do you know, it's weird because...
Quite surreal a wee bit, isn't it?
Yeah, because I think we just think that my dad was never brought his work home with him. So it was always very much kind of like my dad was my dad. So to see people make such a kind of massive deal of him, obviously he's an amazing person, but his career and all that, I didn't know much about that, but I said to Davey actually last night, we done a kind of interview, and the guy said that quite exact same questions. Of what's it like seeing people that kind of, it's just so surreal. It's almost like an out of body experience or something. It's just so strange.
Yeah. It's kind of almost as if it's like a different lifetime. Like, and we speak about that quite a lot, just about footballers like in general, because obviously like his playing career by the time we were sort of old enough to realise what was going on was kind of coming to an end. Do you know what I mean? I always think that, like, when you watch back like footage where, you know, his nose is like how it was when, do you know what I mean, before it was broken, stuff like that, like it's almost looking like a different person. Do you know what I mean? And like you think, God, how must that have been to have those like unbelievable highs and those moments that you look at even now, footage for like 30, 40 years ago, and think, God, that's unbelievable, and actually have been there, and to then go and, you know, come out the house and the 4 kids running about, and do you know what I mean? It's just, it's quite difficult to actually get your head around it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, but it's kind of mind blowing.
You said something earlier on about we all have a Tommy story, and as soon as I told anybody about this, everybody has a personal. Some of my personal Tommy stories are in here. Simple things like when I was at the ticket office, the old ticket office, you know, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever it was now, and I remember I was in, and it was quite a big queue. Tommy came in, had to do, and then he just walked up down the queue. How you doing? Where are you from? Oh, you've been waiting long here. You come on. So I saw this person. Do you know what I mean? And it just brought. It was just dead nice and really funny and very charming and not forced. Everyone was just amazing, you know. And going back to your question about the guys looking at it, I genuinely have tried to think, right, if somebody came to me and wanted to write a play about my dad, how would I react? And I've tried to bear that in mind when I'm dealing with the guys as well, that yes, this is the object of our love, and you know, but it's their dad, you know, and we're very fortunate that Michael's agreed to be executive producer on the plane. From a writer's point of view.
Lucky you do.
But no, seriously, from a writer's point of view, it's been invaluable. Like literally, who better to tell us what Tommy was really like than not just Michael, but obviously the girls as well, and Jonathan in America and Rosemary, and it's fantastic. And when we were doing the audition process, we'd actors come in and Michael, before myself or even the director could say anything, Michael was saying what we thought as well about the performances, and you know, we've got a boy called Liam Harkins who's going to play Tommy, and to say he just blew me away in the audition, just blew me away, and I didn't want to say that because I didn't want to influence Michael or the director, and I wanted to just say, right, okay, you know, inside I'm going, right, but so I went and I said to the director, was giant, he just kind of nodded, and I said to Michael, and he went, yeah, he was good, and there were certain things that reminded me, certain mannerisms, and you had a discussion with Liam about, you know, there were certain things you did with your face and stuff, and so it's absolute gold dust having that input, you know, to say, and that will continue as we go through the rehearsal process and all that sort of stuff, you know, and it's great having the guys and being so supportive, you know.
I actually said to Michael driving over, didn't I? I was like, I can't actually believe we're 13 years down the line and we're still doing stuff like this, and people are still, I mean, I was even on Twitter before I come like away here, and you don't need to scroll very far before you see a picture of him or somebody's talking about him. There was a guy on Twitter the other day, it was actually a Kilmarnock thread, and I think I screenshot it and said to the guys like that, he's now my patron saint, I pray to him.
Yeah.
And I was just like that.
And he would love that. He would
love that. That would be his ultimate, do you know what I mean?
I've seen a killer fan call him God. So I've seen that's one of this is God, you know what I mean?
I just thought, that's mind blowing. There's somebody actually praying to him.
Totally. I would say as well though, like, I definitely feel as if we shared him. Do you know what I mean? We definitely did share him with everybody. Do you know what I mean? Like, he would be up and out the door first thing in the morning, and then at night he'd be, you know, visiting somebody or presenting medals or like anything there was to be done, he would do it. Do you know what I mean? There was no question. So
I heard that one of his most famous speeches when he's been interviewed after the cup final, and it's not. His first thought was like, was it John Paul Connor? I think his name was. You're up in the hospital. I love you, and I'll be up to see you Monday. That blows my mind. I'm actually getting goosebumps just thinking about the selflessness, or you know, just not a thought about himself, or just his first thought was to say, and it's that thing looking right in the camera, you know, and how, that wee guy in the hospital, he must have felt 10 foot tall. Do you know what I mean? Just that Tommy Burns has just given him a name check. The guy was just amazing. You know?
I think that's a good thing as well with us. You know, my dad being so special, obviously he was a good footballer and stuff like that, but all the stories are personal stories. They're not stories about, oh, your dad in that game. It's like, oh, your dad was up at the hospital visiting my nephew, and we got letters in the house, a big massive chest full of letters for people after he died, and you read through them, and every single person, I'm like, where did they get the time? Like,
Yeah,
he was
where
at the
was he?
hospital, he was
These are
doing
made
this,
up.
and
These stories
the
are
guy
made
who
up.
caused massive fights with Film, do you know what I mean? Like, he wasn't coming until 10 o'clock at night. It was because he was at the hospital visiting whoever, wherever he had to go. Like, and he would never talk about it. But I think that's what's special for us as well. Like, all the stories are personal stories because he was such a good person.
Definitely.
And half of them we never knew.
No.
Yeah,
that must be incredible as
Like,
well.
see
you
some
know?
of the stories that, like, I've read, there was one, I think a guy put on Twitter, and I think he had wrote to my dad or something. His dad was like a lifelong Celtic fan, and he took really not well, I think just before the cup final where they won their first trophy, and he wrote a letter to my dad just thinking he's never going to read it or see it or whatever. And he went up to see his own dad in the hospital, like, I think it was like either that night after the cup final or the next day or something. The curtains were around his bed and he thought, oh shit, what's happened here, kind of thing. And the nurses said, oh, he's got a visitor, we just thought we'd give him a bit of privacy. And he pulled the curtain back with my dad sitting with his dad. Like, and I was like, we didn't even know that. Like, we'd never come in and say, oh, I got a letter for this wee guy and blah blah blah. So
Yeah, it was just what he done, wasn't
it's
it?
just like everyday life. Like, you wouldn't even think to come in and tell you he'd done that.
Yeah.
Like-
Like that as well, he would bring like randoms into the house.
Oh,
and,
God,
like
no.
when he was the manager at Celtic, I would always go in early with him, and even like memories of that, just the kind of road that you would take up to Celtic Park, and like what time do you think we'll get there, and the songs that were playing in the car and all that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like so many kind of vivid memories. But you would go in and obviously sit in his wee room and be like, right, Jen, that's Charlie for Wolverhampton. So you're sitting with some pure random guy for Wolverhampton for like 2 hours before the game. Do you know what I mean?
Wow,
Like,
that was
that was life. Do you know what I mean? Like that was just.
What we did on Christmas Day, and George Cadet and his fiancée were standing. I was like that.
Yeah.
Come in. He's like, I just told Dave to come. No to you. My mum never knew. She's trying to rattle out extra turkey and all that. Stressed out her head. Like, just didn't
Yeah.
even think.
Christmas dinner. Brilliant. George Cadet.
Yeah.
See, as a fan, and I remember the cup final vividly, because I watched that, wasn't it, the game, the 87-88 game. And I always remember in that game, and this might be my memory playing tricks, but Tommy Bonds was wearing black and yellow Nike football boots, right? Don't know, am I a stat or an anorak? I don't know, but I remember that because after the game he was sitting with the base of the Scottish Cup, you know that big base of
Yeah.
the Scottish Cup, and he was sitting with it, and I remember his boots. So I'm watching that as a fan, taking it all in, and then years later I spoke to Frank McAvenny, and he told the story that Neely Mockin was looking for the base. He thought somebody had lost the base of the Scottish Cup, and then somebody says, no, Tommy's got it up there, he's just sitting up there with it. And then he goes up, and McAvenny was with him, and apparently Tommy was crying and saying, oh, Neely, they'll remember us in 100 years.
Yeah.
They'll remember
Yeah,
us in
yeah.
100 years. And Neely was like, he's that base, and he just walked away. But Tommy was right.
Yeah. Oh my
It's
god.
like what you say, I mean, that 1988, already, what are we, 30 years down the line? That will be recalled in 100 years' time.
Totally, because he actually says that. See in the interview
Yeah.
you're talking about, he says, I'll be in the team that won the double. Now we've just won a quadruple treble, but we're still talking about the team
Double.
that done the double in 88. Do you know what I mean?
The number 88 is absolutely synonymous with it. Now, it would have been a little bit because it was the year we were formed, but they cemented that number, that team cemented that number in all of us now. I'm not giving away secrets, but most of my passwords have got the number 88 somewhere along the way. Do you know what I mean? That's my computer stuff, do you know what I mean? So, you know, and when the kick goes out, it goes to 67, but it goes 88 first.
It's one of the ones that work button. Someone says, what's your password? And you're like, oh. Just nail my colours right to the mast here. My password is.
Totally.
As a fan, what was your memories, David?
Well, actually, as a fan, I wrote to Tommy and his last season as manager, and we were just saying it'd be quite funny if my letter was in.
And
If I find my letter in there, I'm going to be delighted because I wrote to Tommy when things went over, just saying we still love you and we support you. Doesn't matter, just don't worry about it. Just keep going. Everyone's going to be okay and stuff. And I've written I seen the play where it's the two guys towards the end and the two fans and they're talking to each other. And the guy says, "Did he write back?" The guy says, "It's Tommy Burns. Of course he wrote back." And I got a letter back, and it's I don't have many regrets in life, but I wish I'd kept it. I don't know what happened to the letter. You know, it was a long time ago, and got a nice letter back from him, you know. Like I say, if we find that in that,
You never know.
that'd be amazing.
Oh,
But
imagine.
so that was my memory as well. Like same time as the ticket office, you know, and just being, you know, with that team. Funnily enough, I was putting some pictures on the website today that Michael sent me, and you look at that 88 team, and what a team! What a team, you know. When you go through it, you know, player for player, and yeah, and also as a fan, I think back to the 86 game, obviously the St Mirren game, the Love Street game, you know, and what a team that was as well. I mean, they had the beautiful strips, they had everything about it was just beautiful, you know, beautiful, and the things, the third goal that day, the third goal at the 5 is the one where they basically just play it the whole way up the park, you know, and it's proper Brazilian stuff, you know. It's just, you know, so that those are my memories of him as a player. I mean, I was only 15 or whatever, 16 at the time, but I would say probably my memories are more so as a manager, probably because of just my age or whatever, you know. And like I say, I took the time to write to him, and so it just, like I say, Tommy Burns would have been an amazing man no matter what he did. Simple as that, he would have been an amazing man because he was just built such a way as the things we've just discussed, all the things he did for people. People are built up, you know. It doesn't matter what he could have done any job. He would have been an amazing man. That's my take on it, you know. And the fact that you didn't know so much of the stuff.
No.
You know.
There
was one little story I think I read somewhere, where I was told that there was a woman standing waiting on a bus in the rain, and Tommy was going the other way, and he just stopped the car and went, "You could be my mom. Just, do you want a lift? Where'd you go?" And took it away the other way. And these are things I think
I do that all the time. I've been in the car with umpteen times up Celtic Park. I'm just going to give these guys a lift. Like, no. Well, he's in, he's come. I was
in the car with him one night. I think it was after a European game, and it was Bobby Murdoch he picked up at a bus stop, and like that. So when he got out of the car, he's like, "Jen, he's that it, like
that
pure
fan
boy, or totally." He's like that. He's a lesbian line. He's the ultimate. And then like that, he's like, how can you choose when you're born? Do you know what I mean? If that was somebody now doing that, these guys will never work a day in their life again. And do you know what I mean? And then you've got this absolute superstar standing waiting for a bus in the rain to go back up to Rutherglen, or do you know what I mean?
You couldn't believe that.
No.
I can't believe Bobby Murdoch standing waiting on a bus. Like he just had him like, is this like?
It's interesting. The way I look upon Tommy, he probably looked upon.
100%.
You know, when I'm looking at some of the stories I've picked up over the years, and I was speaking to Brian McClare, whose nickname is Chalky, thanks to your dad. So I've heard that story about obviously the dad naming him Chalky after Chocolate Eclair, and which rhymed with McClare. So you pick up all these stories, but Brian McClare says that the two people in football that had the best sense of humour that he ever met was Tommy Burns and Gordon Strachan. Says it must be something in the red hair. So talk to me about the sense of humour then. I mean, was he like that at home as well?
Yeah, pretty much. An
I
absolute
would say
pest.
probably more so
Yeah,
than
constant.
Yeah, a real pest.
Never off. It's always on. You'd be lying in your room in bed at night, like, but in like sometimes in primary school and all that. When we were at primary school, actually high school, you get a text message, go to commit to unit, please mate. You go in, you just got that rhymes with, and point to his knee and tattoo me for a cup of tea. But you get you out of your bed
Yeah.
into the living room so that you didn't have to go up with the seat.
Or he called him, Michael, you get absolutely turned
Lucky.
Lucky or
Lucky or
Big
Gadget.
Lucky Lad or Anthony for the Royal Family.
Well, they're both the same.
Oh, he's that's right, so he
So
does
it's Lucky
it.
and Gadget, because basically Lucky, I don't know if you watched the Royal Family, but so
I loved
Anthony, so I was like the Anthony in my house, just Anthony do
Michael
this, Michael
T.
do this, Michael T, Michael that's the door, Michael phone, do you know what I mean? So it was ringing, just look at me, and I would do it, and so it was that, Anthony and Gadget, and it's because I used to have this cream like Mac, and I was up at this petrol station in Newton Mearn, so where we live, and I wouldn't say anything about him, but I basically was walking across the forecourt back to my car, and the guy had, over the tannoy, started shouting Inspector Gadget.
Go Gadget.
Go Gadget, and all this, like, over the tannoy, and everybody's like that, looking, the petrol station's stowed, everybody's howling laughing, I'm like trying to get to my car faster, like waving. But very strange guy, actually, that guy, but obviously we've been there for years.
I hope he doesn't listen to this.
But no, it doesn't work there anymore. And it was one of those things like you'd go in and you'd be like, oh, Michael, Mum's not in today, I see that I drove past the other one, the car's not there, like that kind of guy. But I never thought he'd shout across the forecourt, Inspector Gadget, and my dad just caught into that, but so anything like that my dad would catch on to, he would never let it go, so I got Lurky, Anthony and Gadget, and that was my shouts.
Did you guys have any names, or did you go you?
No,
you were Jen Ben.
Yeah, I have, but
Yeah.
no, I don't.
And was it true that you were named by the Celtic squad, probably of the that you were just talking about?
So I was born in 1985, and yeah, when I was born, Mum and Dad couldn't decide between two names, so it was Jenna or Victoria, and they took a vote in the dressing room, and it was Jenna. You know? So I think it was like I don't know if it was like, was it Dynasty, I think maybe at the time, and there was a character in it called Jenna. So
Yeah, I think it was Dynasty or Dallas or something like that, wasn't it?
One of them, and that's who got the name. So yeah, no, I took a vote in the dressing room, so that's how.
And that's the big, and that scene's in the, he shows
I
up to the
guess.
hospital and they're trying to decide on the name, and he's like, well, we took a vote, and she's like, oh, we took a vote. Who's this we, do you know what I mean?
Well, let's see that. Like, I mean, I think when Emma was born, obviously Emma's the oldest. I'm pretty sure it was Packy that came and took you home from the hospital.
Yeah, Packy.
Because my dad was getting a sleep to the game the next day.
That's true.
So that's again, laugh. There's lots of times now where I laugh when it's inappropriate.
Oh, but that was literally.
I just was like so. You never even thought like.
I think as well, when Mum, I think when she had you, he showed up at the hospital with 2 fish suppers.
No, she said she was hungry. You didn't get something to eat, and he came back with a fish supper. She's like, not a fish supper, just a baby. And him and the midwife sat and ate the fish suppers. Like, but he was just like, he was always up to something. Like I remember, I had just kind of started going out to the dancing, and obviously when you came out to dance, I was going to Chippy and all that. I was like, no. I was like, I've ordered a Chinese. It's there. It's waiting for me in the microwave. When I go home, I cannot wait for this. I'm starving. And whole way home looking forward to it, and I get in and open the microwave, and there's a note in the microwave. Thanks for the Chinese, it was delicious. I was like that. I was actually ready to kill him. Like, so looking forward to it, but stuff like that all the time.
Yeah.
Like, just
yeah,
an
because
absolute.
I think people always kind of maybe like now after he's kind of passed away and you hear all these stories, but I feel as if before people maybe looked at him as being quite serious. Do you know what I mean? Like, especially when you'd see kind of what was it, Only an Excuse, like at New Year and stuff like that, and obviously like that was a kind of a caricature kind of version, but the way he would speak, and he was always quite kind of level, and he was like that was not him. Do you know what I mean? He was just a pure.
It could be. There was a.
If you miss mass.
Yeah, I remember going to.
You wouldn't cross him.
You wouldn't. I remember going to. I think it was St Alphonsus Chapel down at the Gallagate, and I don't know, whatever, I was there with me anyway, and I was aware of these 2 guys that came in, like obviously they're good drinking them, these 2 guys, and I could hear them going, that's Tommy Burns, that is Tommy Burns, and I was like, no, and the ones are just melting into your seat thinking, oh, they're getting louder and louder, and they started singing, you know how the Celtic fans sing that, Tommy, bless yourself, Tommy, like, started singing that in the chapel, and I thought he was going to, like, I was like, he's going to actually turn around and kill you two, like. And it was one of the ones just sitting going, please God, please. I was like, I thought, what's he going to do here? Because it was you were in chapel, and that was his like very serious, you know. Yeah. And I think I've actually blocked it out. I can't even actually mind what he'd done, but I think it was like, lads, like keep it down. I was like, I told me right, I like that kind of thing, just kind of shut up. But like, I could be like, he had a real serious side to him as well. Like, definitely.
I've heard some brilliant stories where he flipped, and again, I'm similar to a lot of the great managers where he would lambast somebody, but then half an hour later he was your best mate. And it sounds that he did similar. I think it was a crack story about how, was it you that grassed him up? Or was it you?
No, it wasn't me, it was Jonathan.
Where basically it was like, okay, so you want to go to Mass or do you want to go to McDonald's? And of course McDonald's was picked. And then somebody
that was me.
And you got absolute pelters for it. So
yeah, that was Jonathan Cave there. I can't believe he actually. I still can't believe this. I still give him stick for that, by the way.
That was a harsh life lesson.
It was very funny about combined McDonald's here. I think Cy Ferry told a great story as well about how I think him and
Paul McGowan
missed something. They missed a college course or something like that anyway. And when they came into Celtic Park, they were told, right, come up to see Tommy. And Tommy, they were expecting Tommy to just break character, and he was really strict with him and didn't break character and didn't let him off. And Cy Ferry said he went up there when I think one of the things he said to him was, do you want to end up working at McDonald's or something along those lines, right? And he went up the road, and so I was like, no, this is I've been here. I've never seen him like this, you know. And that's the beauty thing, I think, of having that level of, if you're known as being the nice guy, you've got somewhere to go. And people who start angry, you've got nowhere to go ever in a discussion or an argument or whatever.
Totally.
And it was the fact that then the phone went at night, and you obviously see it's Tony saying, this is it, I'm getting the bullet, you know, and he answers the phone with, can I have a Big Mac and fries, please? I mean, so, you know, there's that, so it's that beautiful way of being able to do things like that.
You know, I've heard, like, Aidan McGeady, for example, telling some really great stories as well, but there was one, I always remember, and we're talking about it now because Celtic are kind of rebuilding, or they will be rebuilding, and you hope that the manager will be able to rejuvenate some of the players that are already at his disposal. And I've been comparing it a wee bit to the kind of Martin O'Neill era. You know, he comes in after the John Barnes and Kenny Dalglish time. One of the players that people remember is Bobby Pettit. And people think, oh, you know, Martin O'Neill rejuvenated Bobby Pettit. So I asked Bobby about it, and he says, no, actually, it wasn't Martin O'Neill, it was Tommy Burns. And he says that, you know, there was loads of things happening in his life, Bobby, and he took his eye off the ball, couldn't concentrate, his form was rubbish. He says, but the one person that took me to the side and got me through it and spoke to me on a day-to-day basis because he identified that I was struggling was Tommy Burns. He says, so everybody keeps saying it's Martin O'Neill. He says, but you'll remember the 6-2 game and the Ajax game and everything else. He says, but that was down to Tommy.
That's funny you should say that, because the Celtic Rangers game that was on the telly the other weekend, you were saying that Stelian Petrov,
Yeah,
who
so
I would never have thought, like, I was shocked to hear that.
Yeah, the start of the programme, like, I just put it on to watch it for the start. And I think it was talking about how, like, the Rangers team they now are really, like, energised and all seem to be working for one another, and kind of what's happened to Celtic, why they not. And it was Stelian Petrov, and the girl Ailey had said to him, you know, obviously you were in the Martin O'Neill area, so what was it for you, like, kind of thing. And he said that, he's like, it was actually Tommy Burns. And he said, he's like, Tommy just basically instilled in me that you don't come to Celtic to compete, you come to win. And he's like, I said to me, like, any time you go onto the pitch, take a breath and realise that you're a winner and you're going out there to win. He's like that. And if he ever saw me coming off the pitch or my head was down, or even in training, he's like, even if I wasn't near him, he's like, he'd shout on me and go, Stelian, like, as if take a breath, you're a winner type thing. And he told that full story, and like, again, I was sitting like that, like, actually tears pure bouncing out my eyes, because I just wasn't expecting to hear it. Do you know what I mean? I thought I was going to hear another, like, but he kind of said that exact same thing, so that's really strange you mentioned that.
Yeah, because people like that you don't think he would necessarily, because of that you think the Martin O'Neill era and all the people that were there at that point in time, and obviously for us we know his level of involvement and how just completely devoted he was, like, his whole life to his job and to Celtic and stuff like that, but I wouldn't necessarily have known that he had that impact on certain individuals. Do you know what I mean?
What sort of also good? I mean, look at Lennox Town. I mean,
Totally.
I mean, talk about legacy. I mean, I know there was a certain man. I think it was Martin O'Neill actually said, well, you know, if it was good enough for Jock Stein, the previous place, you know, then. But I'm sorry, but Celtic were crying out for that. Tommy delivered that. Tommy
Totally.
this, and something that I will be pushing as part of this is I want Lennox Town named after Tommy Burns. But now, whether I can understand all those years ago if there was some sort of financial implications, you know, if they were going to name it after a sponsor, but there's not. So there's absolutely no reason why that place shouldn't be named. Whether they call it the Tommy Burns Training Academy, I don't care what they call it, as long as the words Tommy Burns are on the side of that building, because that's where they should be. I feel very strongly about that. You know,
I think a lot of Celtic fans would agree with that. I always think back, Neely Mockin being the prime example for me, having looked at his life at, you know, at certain times how a manager might have asked for advice, and I think we've had a wee bit of an insight into the fact that he was able to influence players even in Martin O'Neill's time. But Andy Lynch told me a great story about, there was a game when Henrik Larsson comes back after his leg break, and it's the last game of the season against Dundee United, and we played loads of kids. I don't know if you remember that at Celtic Park. Dalglish was the manager. It was his last game in charge, and Kenny Dalglish was determined to start Paul Shields because he had bought Paul Shields from Wraith Rovers for $100,000, and it was Tommy that says, no, give Simon his debut. So Simon Lynch got a game that day, and it was on the say-so with Tommy Burns. So it's interesting how you can even influence the manager. You know, you might be the coach or the second in command, but you're influencing them with your own experience. And I think that one of the most difficult things, I guess, in management would be managing your ex-teammates. And I remember, you know, the team that Tommy took over in the 90s, and you look at the stalwarts, Pat Bonner, as you mentioned, Paul McStay. Absolutely. Do you think he found that difficult? Because these guys are his pals and his teammates, and then all of a sudden you're the gaffer.
I know, I would say probably must have, but what I would say is I think they all completely and utterly respected him.
Yeah,
do
that's
you know
what I
what I
was
mean?
going to say.
I mean, even Peter Grant's wife, sons, all refer to my dad as gaffer. Every single one of them, do you know what I mean? Like that, and I think probably from, you know, the day he walked back in the door as the manager, I think that's exactly who he was, do you know what I mean? I don't think, and probably because he'd had that breakaway at Kilmarnock as well, do you know what I mean? So he'd been away from them for, I think it's maybe more difficult to make the transition from a player into a manager kind of like straight away, do you know what I mean? Like with the same team, but Yeah, I mean, I think he was just totally respected by all them to the point that maybe not.
Yeah,
It would
and I
be
think-
challenged, but not as much of an issue as you maybe think it.
Yeah, and I don't think he would have shied away from telling them what he thought. Like I don't think that was a problem at all. Like, and I think they can almost respected that as well. If he had something to say, he would absolutely say it.
I think as well because they were all probably quite like-minded people and they were all, you know, Celtic supporters. They probably played for nothing at that point in
Yeah.
time. Do you know what I mean? So they all kind of had that same, like mentality kind of it. Do you know what I mean? And I think like that they just wanted to do so well for each other as well. Do you know what I
That
mean?
came across. I don't know if you've seen my favourite pictures of the cup final are the two. One with obviously Paul McStay, which is up on the one with Peter Grant's and Taylor. And Tommy's almost consoling him. They won.
Yeah.
I mean, but I mean that's how much it meant to these guys. And I don't want to bring it back to this season, but you just look at the emotion and the passion and the drive, and I wonder. I genuinely wonder, will we ever see that again? Will we see that again from players? And let me even bringing through our own. Will that ever happen again? Because will we ever have a Tommy Burns in charge of it? You know, because if we're going down the route now of the Eddie Howe's and stuff like that, you know, how long will it be before we have somebody in charge that brings in the Celtic fan mentality? You know.
I know.
See, another thing, all these wee tidbits of information you pick up, there's a guy called, you may or may not have heard of him, but he played with Dunfermline, Falkirk, St Johnstone, a guy called Kenny Ward, right? And he comes from the villages like me in Fife, massive Celtic fan. And he was a sub, or an unused sub, in the replay. Again, he was with Falkirk at the time. And he told me the story, because he's a big Celtic man himself, and he says, you know, here's a wee example of the classic Tommy Burns. After the game, he says there was a lot of Rangers fans in this Falkirk team, not just in the team, but the backroom team, and they were singing the Cheer Up Tommy Burns song with all the expletives involved, and at the top of their voices after they beat Celtic and knocked us out the cup. He says, and all of a sudden the door opens and it's Tommy. He goes in and says, well done lads, good luck in the final. He says, in the whole room,
That
you
makes
could
me
have
feel
heard
so
a
sad.
pin drop, you know.
I know.
But it's the way that he was able just to
Totally.
silence them
100%.
with class.
They must have felt
Totally.
awful.
Yeah,
But
but it's a touch of class though, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Also given, it wasn't just a one-off game in terms of, he must have known he was under
Yeah.
massive pressure at that point. You know, the coat wasn't should nailed. You know, so to show that level of class and control at a time when his world must have been, as we discussed, he loved going to Celtic Park as manager.
Totally.
And thought of losing that must have been, and he's still, you know, I'm not the man he is, but I dare say I'd have the hood up and I'd have been at the door and running away from it. But he confronted it by with goodness, you know.
Yeah.
I know.
And
I remember
he's
him
embarrassed him, isn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
I remember him actually, I think he phoned like mum, remember when he kind of got the sack, and I don't know, I've got a kind of vague memory, and like she was shouting about a lunatic. I think he kind of said, oh, they're trying to get me to go out the back door, and she's like, you will not, like you went in the front door, you're coming out it, and like obviously he did kind of thing, but
when was the last time you ever saw a manager leaving a club having allegedly failed, which he didn't, by the way, we'll come back to that, but you know, going out the front door and being cheered?
I know.
Being cheered by the fans.
I know.
Do you know what I mean?
I know.
Usually there's a lynch mob. Do you know what I mean?
I
You know,
know.
they were there. We want Tommy. We want Tommy. We want Tommy. I mean, so and there's a classic phrase. He's done nothing wrong going out the front door. Do you know what I mean? But just to talking about that, think about where we were before Tommy and where we were after Tommy. The expectations were completely different. You had Andy Tom, Van Hooydonk, Di Canio, Cadetti. He changed from essentially what were a lot of journeyman footballers,
Yeah.
and he brought the vision in to make it the attack. Now, I've seen a couple of clips where he says, yeah, I mean, it's great having these four players. He said, but we're 4 men down when we're defending. But to the Celtic fans, they didn't care because,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, like some of the goals and stuff. I mean, so from that point of view, so what? Yeah, okay, he didn't stop didn't stop didn't stop them. But what he put in place, I genuinely believe, was absolutely fundamental in the success that we went on to have under Vim, you know.
Yeah. I
See
agree.
the thing, and you might be able to shed some light on this, but on that point, Davey, right, 2 of the players that came in who were pivotal to stopping the 10 or winning the 1, whatever way you want to look at it, Craig Burley and Paul Lambert. Now, they were scouted during the time of Tommy Burns, and they were scouted to sign for Celtic prior to Wim Jansen coming in. So you're absolutely correct. I mean, these guys were identified. The other one I would have loved to have seen was David Ginola. Gina, and
Remember he came because Newcastle came for a friendly, didn't they?
Yeah.
That's right. I remember seeing him.
I mean, that you're just a couple of players off
Aye.
having that team that wins the league.
And of
you know?
course there's...
I think that was on the verge of happening though.
Aye,
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that was the pure
I don't know if I
rainy
can tell the
night.
story that actually happened there with that.
Fergus,
But
Fergus,
I
Fergus
think we should.
Aye.
So I always remember my dad saying that literally the guy was on the verge of like signing, like he had him, and Fergus came in and said, "Oh, but have you ever seen Barrafield on a rainy Monday night or something like that?" And that was it. Went to go and see Barrafield, took him along. That was it. Deal off. Like, and my dad was like that. Literally, he was that away for doing it. So he said something about if you ever saw like Barrafield on a rainy Tuesday night or something like that. I think my dad was ready to absolutely.
I'd have loved to have seen him in the
Oh, I
house.
know.
I know.
You know,
I
that
know.
touch, that touch of class that he would have added to the team, and then you think of Burley and Lambert coming in to bolster it.
No.
Yeah, without going all conspiracy theory on here, I mean, we know what happened to Barry with Cadetti, and we also disallowed goal. I mean, there are things that didn't go for him.
Yeah.
Didn't go for him now. I'll need to go and check my numbers. You're much more of a starter than me, but the points total that Vimy Janssen got it wasn't a supersonic score. You know, it wasn't like a supersonic point score. So, would Tommy's team have won? Do you know what I mean, like if you actually look at the points achieved, you know? So yes, it was great, obviously fantastic to win the one, as you say. But was it the outstanding achievement that, for example, we've just seen the season gone by, we would have absolutely horrendous season. So were we bad? Were they good? Do you know what I mean? So whereas, you know, I'd like to look at it, I've not done this yet, I probably should go and do it. Look at compare points totals and go, right, hold on, would Tommy have won the league?
They won more points the previous in the season where we only lost one game.
Aye.
Yeah, we won more points that season.
Aye.
So when you're looking again, it's a great man that's able to bridge the divide. You know, and when you look at the relationships he had with Walter Smith and Alan McCoy, to name but two. I mean that's incredible when you're talking about a legacy as well. I mean, even in this day and age, the bitterness that goes on between the two of Glasgow's big guns, and I think the fans, you know, it's been quite bitter recently, I think, you know, and a lot of that's down to social media and people thinking they can say and do anything they want on that platform. But for somebody to be able to bridge that gap is a special thing. I mean, were they just his pals, Alan McCoy, Walter Smith?
Yeah, so I kind of feel as if, like, see at the time of his funeral, and obviously they carried the coffin with, I think, George, Danny, Packy and Peter. And I think there was this kind of big thing made about it, almost as if it was this like gesture made on purpose to, it absolutely wasn't. Like, they were there in their own right like that as his friends, do you know what I mean? And obviously his close friends out of football, like John Jarvis, Michael McElhenney, Cass, like all these kind of like close, like good pals. And then like, I'd kind of asked all them to, when we got to the grave, like kind of lower his body into the ground sort of thing. So everybody kind of played their own role because he touched so many people, do you know what I mean? But that certainly wasn't a kind of, you know, something that we were thinking about at the time, well, that would be a real gesture to bridge the not at all. Like, that was, they were there because they were his pals, and I think he'd unbelievable laughs, like adored them, do you know what I mean?
You can see what you meant to them as well. I mean, you've seen the footage of McCoy's crying outside the chapel and stuff like that. I mean, you can
Totally.
tell.
I remember being in the car with him one time, and I don't know if did they leave Scotland to go back to Rangers, the two of them, or something.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm phoning these two idiots now, and he would get the phone out and all that. And it must have been their voicemail or whatever. He's like, where am I in this dream team? He's like, where am I? Wait, you're leaving me? He's like, where am I in this dream team? I left him this big like, voicemail list. I don't even know if it was Walter or Al. I don't know which one of them got it, but one of them got a good 5-minute voicemail anyway. But aye, he just thought they two were great. I think he was a real pest to they two as well, to be honest. Yeah. Especially Walter.
Oh yeah, I think he was Walter babysitting.
Yeah,
Like, the two, do you know what I mean?
pretty much, aye.
You know, when you think about the music, Mac the Knife, and I was at one event, you know, the Tommy Bond Supper in Edinburgh. I went to one, and it was just a tremendous evening and just a great experience. And obviously there's that moment of the night. How important was music to him?
Very
Yeah, it was a big, it's a biggie.
always on in the car, because do you know, you put a song on in Alexa when we were in house working, and it was Don't Let the Sun Catch You Crying, which is Jerry and the Pacemaker, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Emma said, Alexa, play that song Gloria Estefan. I was like, why are you playing that version? I thought it was so stupid. And she's like, you hear it, and the intro is different. And I was like, oh my god, it took me like right back to be in my dad's car. It was the strangest thing. I hadn't heard it in years. But all the time, every he's got on his phone in his car, he's always singing, like, it's really important to him.
Yeah, I think as well, like that, talking about going in early into Celtic Park with him, or even like down at Kilmarnock, I could almost tell you the songs that were playing in the order they played, do you know what I mean? Like Hue and Cry, Wait,
Luther
Vandross, like that, Gloria Estefan, like all these different, it was a massive thing, wasn't it? Like,
yeah, but then you could go on his, wait till you hear this guy, it's like 50 Cent, and you're like that, well.
Oh,
Like he would come out with some real random throwing.
I remember one time he was taking me and John to school, and loads of people walked to school. Also, so it was really, really busy. It was the first thing in the morning, and it was, I think it was 50 Cent in the club or Usher. Yeah, I can't remember what it was. And he turned it right up, put all the windows down, and done the pure West Side side of the windows. And was like that driving into school. Me and John stood in the car. I just like that 21. Like, it was unbelievable. It was so funny.
That's tremendous. David, how are you going to work the music into the play?
We've got quite a bit. We're not going to have a band, but Tommy is going to sing a lot. One of the songs was Islands in the Stream that Tommy and Rosemary sang, so we have a scene where Tommy's basically in London, we get up and sing, they sing together. I've thought of a couple of other ways. I don't want to give too much away just now, but I was told that, from the videos, the documentaries, that he wasn't very good about the house. So we have him, for example, with the Hoover, and he's trying to do a good thing, but he doesn't know how to work the Hoover.
Oh,
he literally doesn't know how to work the Hoover.
Literally,
so he's clowning about with it, and then he just breaks into "I Want to Break Free." For example, do you know what I mean, the Queen song? Do you know what I mean? So and he sings a bit of that, and then Rosemary comes in, and it turns out it wasn't plugged in and all that kind of stuff. So I'm combining aspects of his personality that I can then bring. Okay, and so even if it's not a full song in a scene, if I've got him doing something, he's singing. Do you know what I mean? He can just be. Do you know what I mean? So
that's
do you know what I mean? And so that way all the way along. So there'll be a lot of singing. There won't be. It's not musical by any manner of means, but there will be quite a lot of singing. Like I say, even if he's just doing stuff, he can just be singing that, you know. And we'll pick the songs that the guys tell me, the Luther Vandross stuff, or that, you know, and we'll.
Yeah, he was terrible in the house, wasn't he?
There's the wedding scene. I've got this song that's the first waltz, that kind of thing, you know. So we'll get the so there's a lot of that stuff, you know. My understanding is that was Mac the Knife not a thing that Celtic fans expected him to sing and therefore he sang it, or was it genuinely?
He definitely had more songs in his repertoire than just Mac the Knife, but that was definitely kind of associated with him. But I would say, kind of growing up, like my memories of in our house, like if there was a party, it's very much and what's your song, Davey? Because you'll be singing. Do you know what I mean? Like you get
one singer, one song.
One singer, one song. Do not dare interrupt. Do you know what I mean?
I think if I didn't put Mac the Knife in it, I probably would make it in the building. I would get hunted by. Would go, do you know what I mean? You know, so
like I dare say, there's probably songs that he would have like preferred to sing, but Mac the Knife.
Greatest Love of All, done that quite a lot.
Greatest Love of All,
done that quite a lot.
I think the biggest difference, obviously, between the kind of documentary style and then putting it on a stage is people are going to try and replicate the voice, the mannerisms, you know, the way that he went about his business. I mean, how difficult is that going to be for the actors?
That's a great question. I was saying this to Michael and to the production team. Years ago I went to the Fringe to see a play, and it was set the night before England were bidding for the World Cup. I don't know if you remember, they sent a team of people over, they sent over Prince William, David Beckham and other people to try and win over votes from the other international FAs. So somebody had written a play, and it was in a hotel room, and it's them coming and going, they're all one's going out to try and go and win votes. And I remember thinking, how are they going to do this? Purely from a creative point of view, I thought, well, I like football, but what are they going to see? How are they going to give me David Beckham? I mean, it's David Beckham, he's one of the best guys on the face of the planet. What poor actor is going to get put on that stage and get ridiculed for, you know, and Prince William. And within 2 minutes, I went, that guy's David Beckham. And the guy looked up, if you showed me a picture of the guy and went, who does he look like? I would have went,
MD.
Aye, right? But just the way he carried himself, his voice, and I think I said this to you, Michael, at one point, there was dialogue over here, and I was looking at him, because even the way he sat, the way he was sitting in a seat, I went, that is the way to, you know, because, and so that's that's the job we've got to do now. I have to say, we're off to a flyer, because the audition was for a day one audition, considering we've got 6 months to work with the actor and develop it. It's not going to be a parody, that's definitely not going to work well. This is a biopic, not a parody. So we'll work with the actor, but I have to say, for a day one performance, we've got a lot already there for us to develop, and it's all about maintaining that throughout the show. But what I would say is, human nature is such that when he first walks on the stage, you've got a couple of minutes. Once the audience have bought into him, that's it for the rest of the night. They
Yeah.
don't. They're not constantly going well. Well, I would say we've got it easy because at the beginning he comes on, he's got the big red hair, you know. And I think as you put it, the Deirdre Barlow specs. You know, it's the 70s or whatever, so he comes out. So you've got a little bit of a cheat there, if that makes sense, because people go, oh yeah, because that was the 70s, it's a bit different.
Yeah.
So people tune into the voice then, and they tune into his look, and then as he gets older, the hair gets smaller, and you know the glasses get smaller, that kind of idea. But by then, the way it always works, I've seen this within a couple of minutes, the audience have bought in, and that's it. They're just when he walks in from now on, that's Tommy. And that's Rosemary. Do you know what I mean? So that's the way it works. You know what I mean? And we've got a great Rosemary as well. You know.
Yeah, we do.
So we've got, she's quite gallus, which that was when I was putting the description together. I said has to be genuine Glasgow, genuine goggles, and has to be gallus. And that was pretty much the
She's
description.
not too much though.
No,
Because I was worried she would kind of do something like the steaming. Because if you met my mum, you'd probably kind of get that vibe off her. But
Yeah, I wanted like full on Ellen C. Smith.
Ellen C. Smith.
but the girl's name's Susan Greer. So Sarah Greer, my bad. Sorry, Sarah Greer. So she came in and she did it just the right level. Because again, I don't want parody. We don't want parody. This is not an excuse. This is a biopic where we want people to buy in. Once they tune into the voice, then we can move on to the comedy, the singing, the drama, you know, and we can do it that way, you know. And we just move each scene. We move through the years and the decades, you know. But yeah, we have got a challenge on our hand, but we're over the first hurdle because my biggest challenge here was finding the right Tommy, and I found him. Liam Harkins is a staggering find, and to be honest with you, I'm glad we found him now because he's such a good actor. I've looked at his serials that in a few years' time, I don't think we could have got him. If I'm being honest, because I think he'll be in London or Hollywood or Hollywood. He's not going to be politician.
Isn't it politics?
Yeah, exactly. There's been too much election stuff recently. It's clearly permeated in my small brain. But yeah, I think he'll be off doing TV and film, and it might not be available. What I would say is, massive Celtic fan, and when he actually applied, when he sent me his application, he had a beautiful story about meeting Tommy. Turns out Liam's cousin is Gary Harkins, who former professional footballer, played around, you know, different Grimsby and Dundee, Morton, Partick, places like that. And Gary's dad was a scout for Celtic, so Liam actually got like a kind of trial up at Celtic Park. He said he's sitting in the changing room, and lo and behold, Tommy walks in. How you doing, lads? You know, just enjoy it today, you know. And he said that was it. I was just like, bloody hell, that's Tommy Burns. And to say Liam's excited about this is an understatement as well, which I really that makes our lives so much easier. Do you know what I mean? When he's absolutely positively involved.
Yeah,
you know?
that's so good for
And
him.
honestly, in fact, I'll need actually. I'll get the email he sent me, right, and I'll forward you on the word, and he put in it. It was beautiful. So I had high hopes for him, and I said that to you guys. But when he came in, blew me away, and I was like,
that's so good.
Oh, it was really good. So we've got, you know, and again, so we've got a really strong cast. As well as that, we've got a couple of other actors that I've worked with before who are very versatile, and what they'll do is they'll play the priest, the doctor, the nurse, you know, that kind of idea. A lot of the time, and again, this is going back to how amazing Tommy was, that even after his terminal stuff, he was in getting a blood transfusion, and there was the thing about the nurse that was confused and the wrong details, and he was making jokes that he was going to end up with a boob job and stuff like that. So we put these things in as well, you know. But yeah, we've got a really strong cast, and I just can't wait to get going with it. I just can't wait. Can't honestly. The rehearsal period, we rehearsed for 3 weeks before the show, and I just can't wait till we actually get involved in the creative side, and we can put the show on stage, you know. So what I would say as well is, I know that every single member of that audience is on our side from the minute the actors walk on stage. Every single person in there wants to enjoy themselves, and that's just an absolute reflection of the love every single person in the room have had for Tommy.
Oh, definitely. Davey, you've got to tell us about the tickets, when they go on sale, where we can actually find the tickets and get involved in this.
Sure, okay, so thanks for that. It's the website is the best place to go, the only place to go really. It's theTommyBurnsStory.co.uk, so that's theTommyBurnsStory.co.uk. On there you'll find information about the cast, the crew. So obviously it's the Kennedale Suite, the 9th to the 13th of November, so we're doing a Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday matinee, Saturday night. And on the website there is a link for the tickets, which will take you through to Ticketmaster, and you can purchase the tickets. When you purchase the ticket, you'll get an email confirming it with the code, etc. Thereafter, you will then receive your allocation of seats, kind of thing. and if you the sooner you order, the closer to the front you'll be. We had to do a little bit of a difference because obviously the Kennedyl Suite's not set up as a theatre venue, so you can't select your own seats. So therefore, the sooner you order, I will simply place people nearest the front. If you know what I mean. So that's how it's going to work. So again, that's the tommyburnsstory.co.uk, and we're on Twitter at Burns Story. So we're on there as well if anybody wants to give us a follow on there. So.
And we'll have the links at the bottom of the video as well.
Yes.
But thank you all for coming through to chat.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
It's been an
Really
absolute
enjoyed
pleasure.
it.
Thanks for joining us on A Celtic State of Mind.
Thank you.